I think I'm gonna bring around our king to this side and then push the g-pawn. Because when we push the g-pawn, we'll actually be threatening a back rank mate. Hey guys, this is Andy from Noctie, and today we're gonna go through the weekly scenario for week 24 of 2025. Let's take a look at this week's position. This week's position features a rook endgame where we have two connected passed pawns against the opponent's king and rook. No matter your skill level, rook endgames are essential for improving at chess. They come up very often and are full of deep strategic ideas. To successfully handle these endgames, you need both theoretical knowledge and develop an intuition for the most common strategic ideas. In this case, having two connected passed pawns is a theoretical win. However, we still need to be precise in order to convert this. There is no fixed move sequence that we have to play, but instead we need to develop a game plan and follow some general ideas. First of all, we want to advance both of our pawns together, and while doing this, we want them to shelter our king from the opponent's rook, because the opponent will try to disturb us and give checks with their rook. On the other hand, we want to use our rook actively and limit black's king, and slowly but steadily push the black king towards the edge of the board. Important to note here is that when we up two pawns like this, a rook exchange will lead to a winning pawn endgame. So if an opportunity for a rook exchange comes up, we should definitely grab it. Now it's our turn to play against Noctie. Let's see if we can manage to win this. Here I'm gonna actually increase Noctie's difficulty to the maximum, to queen 4. And the reason is that this position is a theoretical win. So I want to be able to practice my technique and be as precise as possible. So I'm gonna go here to the scenario settings and increase the difficulty all the way up to queen 4. Alright, now let us play and see if we can win this. To start off, let's see what our first move should be. Spontaneously, I'm thinking of bringing up our king and then march up the pawns. But the problem here is that black's rook is stopping us from doing so. So I think I'm gonna just bring our rook to the f file and then bring it down here to f3 and stop black's rook from attacking our king. So let's do that. Okay, black goes up with the king, and now we can proceed with our plan and bring the rook to f3. And as we discussed, when we up two pawns like this, any conversion to pawn endgames will be winning, so we are not afraid of black capturing our rook. Alright, and now we can simply go up with our king. So we want all of our pieces to be working together and then push the pawns forwards. Alright, here we cannot push the pawn because the black king and rook is guarding the h4 square. So instead, I'm gonna bring my rook to the a file and try to deliver some checks. Alright, black doesn't do anything to stop it, so I'm gonna put in a check. Black's king is forced to move backwards. And now I think we can go with the h-pawn. So we can march our pawns, and as you can see here, our rook on the 5th rank stops black king from helping out in the defense. And what do we do here? One idea is that we play king h3 and then move forward with the g-pawn, one step or two. Let's see. I'm gonna follow through with that and see what happens. Now I'm gonna bring forward the g-pawn one step. Alright, now black pins our g-pawn. Here I think I'm gonna repeat my initial idea. I'm gonna bring my rook to the f file and then go to f4 to stop black from checking us. Let's do that. Interesting, it's marked as a dubious move, so there was perhaps a more accurate approach. But I think our idea still works. I'm gonna go ahead and try. And still black cannot exchange rooks because then the pawn endgame will be completely winning for us. So black's best chance is actually to keep the rooks and try to defend. Here we can move up our king and try to make some progress. Alright, what do we do here? I'm gonna bring out our rook to the a file again and see if we can perhaps give a check. Yeah, let's give a check. And from here I think we can just repeat our idea. After we've given a check, we can go up with the h-pawn. And the idea is to move away our king, go forwards with the g-pawn. So all the time the g-pawn is sheltering our king, so the black rook cannot give us checks. Yep, let's go with that. And now up with the g-pawn. Let's see what Noctie does. Okay, Noctie goes with the king. And here we see that slowly but steadily we make progress. We have marched up our pawns now to the 5th and 4th rank, and soon we'll be able to march them up even further. So I'm gonna repeat my idea, go here, put the rook on f5, and then move forwards with the king. And here we can actually go up with the king directly, because if black gives a check, we block with our rook. So it's the same recurring idea. Alright, and now I'd like to move our rook to the a file to give us more flexibility, to give checks. Okay, now black gives a check on the g file. So here we have to be a bit careful. I think I can just go back with the king. So no stress at all. Simply playing very safe and making progress one step at a time. What do we do here? So an important note here is that g5, although I think you'll still be winning, could be a bit tricky, because when we play g5 then both of our pawns will be adjacent, and after that black can play up with the rook and start giving checks. And now our king doesn't have a pawn shelter, so we have to shuffle around a bit. It should still be winning, but I think it's good to avoid that. Okay, now I'm gonna go up with my rook with the idea of playing h6. Let's do that. Alright, and now we can go up with our king, and once more, if black gives a check, we can simply block with the g-pawn. And here we can simply do that anyways. And soon black will be at the edge of the board. Okay, we give a check, and now the black king is down at the 8th rank. So what do we do here? I think I'm gonna bring around our king to this side and then push the g-pawn. Because when we push the g-pawn, we'll actually be threatening a back rank mate here on a8. So let's do that. I'm gonna go king g4 first, and probably black will start giving us checks. Alright, not now. So now we go up to f5, and let's see what Noctie does. Noctie gives a check, we simply move up the king. Okay, Noctie checks us again, we're gonna move to e5, and here Noctie does not have any checks more. She moves away the rook, alright. And now I think I'm gonna go and bring my rook in, try to block off black's rook. Now I'm gonna go rook d6. And now we can simply start moving up with the king or bringing up the pawn. So the question is, what is best to do? I think g6 is a nice move. So now our pawns are really close, and it will get very dangerous soon. What do we do here? I think my idea is going to play king f6 and then play h7 and bring our king around this way. Okay, Noctie gives us a check, but it is fine. We'll just play king g5. So here I'm gonna play h7 check. Noctie must move the king. Here we give a check with the rook. Let's see what Noctie does. Alright, she brings the king up in the corner. And here we'll have checkmate very soon. We'll bring up our king. Noctie is forced to move the rook because the king is trapped. And here we can actually deliver checkmate in two ways. We can go with the rook to give a back rank mate, or we can move up the pawn. I'm gonna go with this pawn checkmate. And yeah, here we are. We have a beautiful checkmate. So this week's scenario was a really interesting rook endgame. And as we could see, it wasn't an obvious win even when we were 2 pawns up. Instead, we needed to have a clear game plan in mind and also know some endgame fundamentals. If you need a refresher on endgame fundamentals, we've got you covered. In Noctie, you can find interactive lessons on both the Lucina and the Philidor position, both being essential Rook endgame techniques. We also have a course covering the most fundamental stuff about pawn endgames. I'll put the links down in the description, feel free to check them out. So that wraps it up for today, and as always, thank you so much for watching and happy playing. Bye bye.